Well, we have one more minute. Just bear with us by my atomic clock here. There we are. Are we recording? All right, then. I'll start all over again. December 12th, 2022. I call to order the Haslett City Council. Full council is present and in the chambers. If you would, and before I forget, this being our only meeting in December and prior to Christmas, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. If you'd bow your head with me for invocation, then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Father in heaven, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for this joyous time of the year that we celebrate the many holidays and the upcoming new year. We thank you and pray for your continued blessings on the city of Haslett, great state of Texas, and the United States of America. In Jesus' name, amen. And if you stand with me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is presentation. Kelly Turner, Mr. Rogers.
And Mayor Halsey, if you'll join us, and David Rogers and Ruscia Yalamanchili. So Mr. Yalamanchili found some historical documents on his family-owned property at 120 Lewis Lane here in Haslett, Texas, and he would like to donate those documents to the Haslett Public Library today. And they were signed by Elvis Richard Pete Lewis, or E.R. Lewis. And Mr. Lewis served on the Haslett City Council at the incorporation of the city in 1961, and he helped organize Haslett's volunteer fire department, and he served on that board for many years. He also was one of the founders of Northwest ISD, and he served on that school board as well.
I just want to say,
Thank you.
Mr. Rogers, and I'll say, Lee? Lee. Mm-hmm. A number of say on that petition. I have
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew, there were actually three Elvises, all Lewises, that all lived up there at one time or another. Two of them did serve on city council. Elvis Richard, which is Pete, which is the only way I ever knew him. Nobody ever called him Pete except his wife Lally. No one else ever said that around him. But his son, he had Elvis Ray. Elvis Ray also served here on our city council. He was our mayor pro tem for a while. He also lived up there. And then his younger son, his son name was Elvis Neal. They were, but nobody ever called him Elvis. They always called him Neal. But yeah, there was a lot of Elvis Lewises that lived in that one spot. So that's what, if you ever want to know why Lewis Lane is Lewis Lane, that was Lewis's was all over up there. Lots of them. So yeah, you had three Elvises in that place.
That is such a treat. Thank you again. We go on then, item 4, citizen participation and comments. Do we have anybody who'd like to make any comments?
Yes, sir, we do. Sandra Smith.
Miss Smith.
Sandra Smith, 300 Gamble Street. Feels like I'm doing a little downer on the festive night here tonight. But for those of you who know me, I've done open records requests here in this city for 15 years, right around 15 years. And I've done open records requests in Tarrant County and also in the city of Fort Worth. But recently I did an open records request. I submitted it 9 September of this year. And I'm not here to make any condemnation on any individual. This is more of a process thing. But I submitted this open records request 9 September. And on the 10th day, I got a call and said that the city attorney would be writing me a letter. On the 10th day, I'm supposed to have an answer. But on the 10th day, I got a call saying the city attorney was writing a letter that day. And that letter was addressed to Attorney General Ken Paxton for a ruling on my request. And when I got the letter from the city attorney's office, it was made out to Shannon Smith. It wasn't made out to me. That's what the envelope said. So I was a little bit confused about how that was going to go. And so then, finally, 3 months later, I get an answer from Attorney General Paxton's office. I guess I was copied on the letter saying that I was being denied my request. But what's interesting about the letter that came from Ken Paxton was it was made out to the city attorney of, was not Haslett, was made out to the council for the city of McKinney. And it said, copy the requester. It didn't even put my name on it. So all through this process, from the time it left the city attorney, went to Attorney General Paxton, and then back, it never really put my name on anything. So, you know, at this point, given that Ken Paxton's letter said it was to the council of McKinney, copy the requester, I don't even know what my recourse is. But I just kind of wanted you guys to know that there's seemingly, at least to me, a breakdown in communication. I mean, I have to live with what the Attorney General of Texas says. I can't say that I'm happy about it, but I accept the denial of the request. And then also, in the last month or two, I did an open records request on some code enforcement contacts made in my neighborhood. When I got those back, to my surprise, owners weren't listed on there. Sometimes addresses weren't listed on there. On one, it had my address on it. So I certainly don't mean to condemn anybody that does a good job here at the city. But sometimes these things, these small details, are important and impact citizens' lives. And so I'm just going to ask for those people in the room that may have a hand in this process to be, you know, aware that these things are important to some people. It may be that you're busy or, you know, you just overlook some things, but to me, it's important. To me, it's important that I have accurate information. So that's my request tonight. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Smith, I want to say that, you know, the open record requests and your rights to those are your rights, and we will look into this and to see if there's any errors at all. Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that'd like to make comments? Anybody online? Very good. Then we'll go on. We'll go on to item 5, community items of community interest. And yes, Haslett, Texas, the city has its own radio station, AM 650. Now it is a license under FCC as a public safety station, has a radius of 3 to 5 miles. But we will have some programming coming up here in the next week that be from the community and run for about a week, just you know, for the holiday events. City offices and Haslett Public Library are closed on the following dates: Friday, December 23rd, Saturday, December 24th, Monday, December 26th, Saturday, December 31st, and Monday, January 2nd. You know, I would like to make a comment here that the city staff begged me to let them work on these holidays. And I said, no, I just can't do it. You're going to have to take the time off. And they did so and agreed reluctantly. All right, then. Haslett is hiring, and we need a Parks and Ground crew leader, Parks and Ground crew maintenance worker, staff accountant. Does anybody have a calculator? Water maintenance worker 1 and water maintenance worker 2. Please visit haslett.org and find out further information. Let's go to item 6, administrative reports. Counselors, does anyone have any questions on our reports this month?
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I had a question in the finances. It's probably there and I couldn't see it, but I couldn't find what or where we had paid the Howard County Sheriff the last month.
We haven't.
We haven't paid them,
We have not paid them.
but they're still working.
They're still working, and that contract is in review and being modified. As you know, this last budget year, we added 2 additional sheriffs. Their first invoice did come to us, and it was for the full amount of 4 full-time deputies. And I'm, well, wait a minute, there's an error here. And so I called the county, and they did acknowledge there was an error, but they got to rewrite the contract so they can invoice us with the proper number of deputies that we have at this given time. You know, they have a new recruiting class. They're going through the, schools, and we will get these new deputies when they are put into the field, which is, we're hoping in January, February, but yet they should not have invoiced us for them. And that's what's being modified.
Okay, so will the next, when we see it, should we be aware it's going to be a larger amount than normal because it's going to be like the back months, or it'll start?
Yes,
How will that work?
in fact, we got, we're 2 months we have not paid thus far. So you'll see one large check probably in the $300,000 range by the time, if we get it next month. but they advised us to, we're coordinating with the Tarrant County office, and they advised us not to pay the invoice. Yes. Any other questions on your report?
Mayor Halsey?
Yes, ma'am.
Along those lines on the sheriff's report, I'm really conflicted on that they made 52 traffic stops and 1 citation out of 52 stops. And I just don't know why there's such a discrepancy when traffic is such an issue in our city.
Life is full of mysteries. No, we are communicating with them. There might be a discrepancy. I know we're going through right now with regard to the citations. The county likes to use written pads. Now, our pads had 2, an original and a receipt. And then we were informed that they could not use those anymore. So I met with county officials, and one told me, well, no 2 is sufficient. Then I met with another, and they said, no, you need 3. And another stated 4. And I said, okay, let me do this. I'm going to send you a copy of our citations, all the legalese that's on it. Can you please advise us how many, original and receipt copies that we should have? And it turns out we need 5. And I'm kind of wincing right now. And we prefer to use what they call ticket writers. It's a much more accurate way to issue a ticket. There's no error in trying to read handwriting. It's all done electronically. And so that's my next step, is to do that. Now, I'm not telling you all this. This might have something to do with it. It also might be that these deputies are using county ticket books. So I haven't, at the end of this explanation, I haven't got a good reason why.
So if they're using the county ticket books, then it would not show up on our.
That's correct. So I haven't got a good explanation to date as to why this is occurring, but multiple inquiries have been made on this one subject. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question on code enforcement. I believe it was last meeting we had a presentation about the oil fields being inspected. Will our code enforcement people cite those things, or is that the job of this company that's doing it?
Cite oil,
Oil and
wells?
gas leases, he showed the presentation where
That
the
is for
violations.
our gas well inspector under our city engineer, their duty to do that. And they have, these gas well operators have been notified.
I just didn't see them reported on this code enforcement. I was wondering.
It won't show up on code enforcement.
Will we see it in some other report?
In another report, not under what you're getting right now, but we can make a note to include gas well, a gas well report.
And it doesn't have to be every month, just, I don't know, every 3 or 4 months, just that we see that they're, that they are actually
Okay.
checking them.
Ms.
And
Montgomery, would you please make a note of that?
On that same vein of the code enforcement, I wrote down excellent. 57 records and going around and picking up signs, and I'm very excited that she's with us and seems to be doing a good job. So.
He has. I don't know if you've noticed, and probably you have noticed, driving around Haslett is beginning small steps at a time, looking much neater, a lot cleaner. Mr. Rogers, Public Works, and Code Enforcement, they're all working hand in hand, and the increase, it's a wonder what the increased personnel, what you can do with it. But thank you, council, for doing that. That's a direct reflection of your effort. Any other questions, council?
Yeah, Mayor, on the engineering report, a couple of questions on there. On the Blue Mound Road, some drainage, flooding issues. What, what location on Blue Mound is that?
Mr. Rogers?
That would be at a driveway down on Blue Mountain Road. I forget if that's in the 950 block of Blue Mountain Road.
Is that on? I take it, I mean, it's addressed to Blue Mound Road, so that's actually affecting the city road.
It's something within the Tarrant County area that is causing a problem on our section of the road.
Okay. So the county, okay, so this could go back to the county.
Yeah, it's something that's happening out in the county that's causing us to have a problem.
Okay. I'll keep up with the reports and see how this progresses. Second one, I'm sure this has been addressed in prior councils, so excuse my ignorance, but I'm going to ask. The Hurley Street parking lot. If we're not, we changed the course of downtown Hazlet. We're going back to residential. I don't know, why do we want to spend, I think it's $175,000 on a parking lot? That's my question is, what's the significance of a parking lot on the street over here?
Well, you do have commercial along here, and there will be more commercial that'll be along in this area on both sides of the road as well. But just such as the feed store across the street, there is no parking. Our parking lot, which is intended for the community center and city hall, is what's being used for parking for employees as well as customers for the farm store next door. So that would help in that regard, but also you have a restaurant and then Mr. Jim's, and there should be, in time in the future, more across the street coming as well. It will be very helpful.
Okay. And then the last item is, looks like it's an ETJ on 990 Blue Mound Road, potential commercial development. If that's, I guess we don't have control over the zoning, but will that affect city utilities for that development?
Mr. Swanky.
Well, there are several things. When you have an ETJ project, we don't provide sewer service in our ETJ, so it would not affect the sewer service. There would be water that we do provide in the extraterritorial jurisdiction.
So we are going to provide water. They won't rely on well water on their own wells to the property.
I believe we have water lines servicing that.
On in the ETJ, we have a license, and a requirement by the state of Texas, and you can go ahead and take it from here.
We have a CCN that covers an entire city limits as well as our future ETJ, which says we will serve water to anyone in that area, as long as it is feasibly possible to do it. So if someone's near a line, we will supply water to them. If they're not, or it's too far, and they can't work out a deal to extend it, we don't have to. They could go to well at that point. But if they are, we have to provide it. Sewer, we do not have a CCN, so we do not have to provide them any kind of sewer service.
Okay, and
Under our present ordinances, if they desire to have city sewer services, that requires them to annex into the city. And then they are subject to our zoning ordinances.
okay. And this, I don't know what the commercial development is, but it won't tax the water system in that part of the city.
No, it was designed, the system's been designed in anticipation of some of those things coming in. So wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. That's all I've got. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Council, any other questions on our reports?
Yes, Mayor Halsey, I have a question on the financial report. I noticed that the interest income was significantly higher. I was wondering, is that going to continue, or is there a reason?
I think it's going to continue for a while, yes. Both the bank that we use and the pools that we use have upped their interest rate in the last couple of months, and it is pretty significant from where it was. And so I expect it to continue for a while. I think the Fed has already made indications they're going to be raising rates a couple more times in the near future, and so I think we can expect that to last for a while.
Council, any other questions? Very good. Very good. All right then, let's move on to item 7. Updates on active items, projects, and the event recaps. Mr. Rogers.
All right, our Haslett Parkway construction project. The biggest emphasis on that one right now is the Avondale Haslett portion. That's, you're seeing all the digging all over the place over there and boring all over the place over there, moving gas, and gas lines, phone cables, power poles, all being moved back out of the way. That's the biggest thing going on that portion of the project currently. Our L project is the biggest thing. Besides, it is getting very close. They're already doing topsoil on about 60% of that project's getting topsoil currently. So they're getting close on that. The biggest holdup we're having is Tri-County Electric and electric power that we're going to need for the street lighting and for the signals. That's been the biggest, slowest part we have going right now, which is kind of outside the contractor's deal. That's a kind of a third-party thing that we deal with. But it's coming along. As of right now, our last meeting with everybody, they all still now are back on schedule. They say that they're going to be ready by March. We're going to be opening up and driving through. So it's going well. Any questions about any of it?
Well, we're all excited about it. The L, even from a regional aspect, people are excited about that
Yes.
L opening up because that helps with regard to North Central Texas Council of Governments and other planned projects. It helps accelerate that. And so it was a smart move. And again, thank you, Council, for
Oh, yeah. It's very
letting us
very
go through
important.
with that.
I had a call, had nothing to do with that. It was about a pothole in front of JB Hunt up here in Fort Worth. The guy thought it was our problem, and when I told him no, I couldn't help him with that, he says, well, do y'all have anything to do with that other road that's being built over there? And I go, well, that we do have. So when is it going to be open? He's excited. The JB Hunt is excited about that happening because they have a lot of east-west traffic, and they're going to be using that, I think, a lot.
We ought to see some great improvement, and improvement means reduction on 156. All right then. I inadvertently pressed a button over here. It has a head figure with an X on it. Did I shut somebody off? Okay. Oh. Consent agenda. Approval of the November 14, 2022 regular city council meeting minutes.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion is made to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There is a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Item 9, Public hearing, ordinances, resolutions, and action items. 9A is discuss, consider, and act on all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of City of Haslett, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2022, including the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of such certificates of obligation. And I will turn this over to Ms. Lamb and Hilltop Securities.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm John Martin with Hilltop Securities. My partner and son, Michael Martin's with me tonight. This evening is a culmination of a long time planning on capital improvements and how you all go about financing those capital improvements. Plan was put together several months ago, and you all had properly determined how much of that should be paid out of your fund balance, how much you should budget out of capital outlay periodically, and then how much is appropriate for debt financing. So there's a long list of projects that you all are familiar with, and to get to that, you take advantage of your ability to issue tax-exempt bonds, which is typically a much lower. It is much lower than you and I can go borrow money for, because the interest paid to the owner of the bonds is exempt from federal income tax. So these are tax-exempt bonds that you're issuing in the form of certificates of obligation, falls under state law. So this evening we provided you all with some booklets that gives you a great wealth of information. I promise you I'm not going to go over every page. I'm just going to hit some highlights here. And the first thing I'd like to do is to direct you to tab number 2, which is the report from, starts with the report from Standard & Poor's Corporation, and it deals with your credit rating. And it's this is an important piece because it is how an independent third party sees you all in terms of your credit and how they view your ability to repay your debt, and if there is concern about y'all's ability to repay debt based upon all the economic and demographic information that is going on, and things and growth that is being seen in your area. So despite the fact that you all are going to look at financing the largest amount of debt you all have incurred in the past, the rating agencies, S&P was satisfied that they don't have any concerns over your credit, and they affirmed your AA credit rating. Now that is, you can only go from AA plus, and then AAA. So for a city the size of Haslett to have a AA rating is excellent. So all of you are to be commended for your financial well-being and doing what you need to do and keeping your financial statements and paying your bills on time, all the things that go in to having a good credit rating. Do want to certainly point out your finance director, Ms. Lamb, did a phenomenal job in these calls. These are long, lengthy, just wear you out calls with the analysts, and there's also another call that we have with the Underwriters Council that we can talk about here in a minute. But they provide us with an outline of questions, and Ms. Lamb's experience shined through and represented the city very well. So all this is to say that your rating is affirmed, the AA rating. It goes through the overall framework of how they develop the criteria for the rating. You'll see in here that one thing that it does comment on in the credit opinion is it talks about very weak debt. That's not really a reflection on the city of Haslett. When they look at debt, they're talking about the taxpayer that's in Haslett. So not just the city's debt. It's talking about the debt burden on the end of the taxpayer. So that's primarily talking about the things that you all have control over. You've done a great job. In Texas, we have higher property taxes because that's the way we fund our schools. It's just the way we do it. And as opposed to sales taxes or liquor taxes or whatever it may be, we use property taxes. So as a result, that tax burden and debt burden, and that's the only way that they can build any facilities is they have to issue bonds, and they have to go to a vote of the people to be able to issue those bonds. So as a result, almost every city in Texas has a weak debt category in there, because typically school districts, if they're growing and they have a supportive community that supports the growth and supports their school district, there's going to be a higher debt burden. So that's certainly not a reflection on you all as in the way that you all manage your finances. But it's a great report. Take some time to thumb through that. Behind the next tab, the next blue sheet there, is the bond buyers index. And this shows you, I think this is interesting to point out, it looks like this. It's almost like an eye test. Everybody with me? On the blue sheet. So it's a long chart. And it tells you, this is really like in our business, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So the close of business on Thursday of each week, a basket of municipal bonds is valued, and they weigh the overall yield on those bonds. And as you can see, reading from left to right from 2008 out to 2022, the red box there was the highest during that period, and these are average maturities of 20 years. So 6.01. The low we hit in August of 2020 at 2.02, and we've bounced around in the twos very nicely all the way through 2021 and the first couple of months of 2022, and then we kind of fell off the cliff there in March, and that's when the Fed took action. Inflation starts. Inflation had been kind of hidden, and it became very apparent that there were some real issues, and so as a result, the market reacted. And you can see the movement upward where it got to a high of 4.16% there at the end of October. And that's when we were kind of starting to talk about this particular issue. And we're going to give you a great report tonight about, as you can see, what's happened since then. We're now to 3.63. It was last Thursday. So come down quite a bit. You all are benefiting from that. There's a cute little graph there behind that too that shows you how all that comes together. Behind tab 3, I want to show you where the market is today. That's the 10-year Treasury bond, and that's what happened today. So when I talked to Marcy this morning, I said, underwriters are going out with your deal. Market feels really firm. Feel great about today. And as you see what happened through the day, we did start out real good, but there in about the middle of the morning, it started moving up on us. And so we lost about 3 basis points on the day, which isn't that big a deal, but you'd hope that it remained a little bit firm. You kind of tend to get greedy when you start seeing a rally in the bond market, which we haven't seen. Behind that blue sheet is the pricing wire. This goes out to all the dealers that may be interested in buying your bonds. This is what RBC Capital Markets, who is your lead underwriter in this transaction, shows the pricing there. Each maturity, the coupon that's the interest rate on that particular maturity, and then the yield, that's the yield to the investor of what they pay after they pay a premium on the bonds. A few pages there. Behind tab 4 is really the meat and potatoes of the whole presentation tonight, and this shows you the first page is the sources and uses of funds. It's really like a balance sheet of the transaction. Shows you where the money's coming from and where the money's going. So the city of Hazlet is going to issue $16,075,000 of certificates of obligation. And along with the accrued interest and the premium on those certificates, you're going to have just under $17.2 million to spend. And with that is going to be the deposit to the project fund of $16,915,700. That is a variety of general fund type projects, streets, roads, and then there's also some utility projects. That's the main part of this, is a lot of utility system projects. Below that then is the cost of issuance budget, and then the underwriter's discount, which is really another way of saying sales commission. That's really what the underwriters are paid for selling your bonds. The sideways page there that's landscape, the next page behind that, shows you your debt service schedule with your existing debt, and then your when we layer in the Series 22 tax and revenue certificates of obligation. So the way the city of Hazlet pays their debt is there are different forms of debt that you have out there, and you can see those payments right now are a little, if you look at the total column, the second column, are just over $700,000 a year. And that debt is repaid primarily, the greatest part, from water and sewer payments, surplus water and sewer payments of about $340,000. The EDC also helps to a certain extent, just under $70,000 a year. And then the remainder goes on the tax rolls. And that's the INS tax component. So when you all set your tax rate every year, you have your M&O tax rate. That's for your general operations. And then you have your INS tax rate. The INS just pays debt, whether that's voted general obligation bond, certificates of obligation. You have some tax notes. That type of debt is repaid mostly from the INS tax rate, particularly for general fund type projects. Then we show you the new COs that come out there, and those will mature in 20 years, going at just a little over 20 years. 16 million, again, you're issuing. And those show the interest rates you'll be paying, the yield to the investor, and how the interest is paid. You won't have a payment until the following budget year. So right now we're issuing in the middle of the fiscal year, and so we didn't want to have, we've already set the tax rate, and so we can't go back and change that. And we also don't want to have to make budget amendments for our utility budget and that sort of thing. So we're going to pick this up when you all go into your budget workshops in this spring and summer. And so the next year you'll pick up an interest-only payment, and you can see the payments on the new debt is about $1,260,000. Now, when we were talking about this in October, we spoke with Marcy about this afternoon. That number, that debt service payment was about $1,350,000. So we were sitting at a targeted rate, TIC, true interest cost, at that point of about 4.5%. And if you look at the second footnote there, we came in at a true interest cost of 3.76%. So that's really the magic number we're looking for tonight, is what kind of rate did you get on your bonds? That's the answer. It's 3.76%. So as we go over to the right side of that spreadsheet, you can see the new combined payments. And a lot of this new debt is picked up. As you see the red footnote at the bottom, they'll be repaid 28% from ad valorem taxes and about 72% from utility. That's the balance of the project. So 72% of the proceeds are going into the utility type projects, and then about 28% for general fund type projects. So then you see your tax levies and where it says tax supported. Your payment will go from $316. The levy will go from $316 to about $676, and then we've taken very, very conservative, lower than what they really are, net taxable values there, to show you that the increase in the INS rate will be about 3 cents next year for all of us. So not a bad bump for all the work, for all the money that's being borrowed. Again, that's using more conservative values than what they really are. The page behind that is really for the finance director, and shows how the debt is broken out between the utility system and the INS tax rate. The page behind that shows you how the bonds are sold. And you see those asterisks on those maturities. Those mean that they're callable before the final maturity. So beginning September 15, 2031, you can pay the debt off early. You don't have to hold them and pay them to maturity. So it may make sense, and there may be refinancing opportunities at that point in time that we will all be willing to look at. The page behind that, and the last page of that section, is the cost of issuance budget. That's the estimate of the fees and expenses involved in the debt issuance. It includes ourselves, the Norton Rose Fulbright law firm, the Attorney General has a fee, the rating fee that we discussed, and then there's a variety of bank and printing costs and that sort. Behind tab 5 is the offering document that was used. That's what the underwriters used, RBC and Estrada Hinojosa used to market the bonds. Anybody that's interested in placing an order for the bonds, they receive one of these documents electronically in a PDF form. It talks about the way taxes are collected. There's a lot of things that will make eyes roll back in your head as you read this. But in the back, there is some kind of interesting information as it relates to the city. with your economic and demographic information. Talks about trends in your tax base and your top 10 taxpayers and that sort of thing. Then finally, behind tab 6, after you all, if you all have any questions, when you all are ready to make a motion, we've given you a suggested form of motion there. Congratulations on a great sale today. And timing going into the market just perfect. Like you knew what you were doing.
Very good, very good. Council, do you have any questions? Mr. Martin?
I do have a question. You said that the true interest cost is 3.76%?
Yes, sir.
And that's for the entire term from 2024, to 2043?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you look at the page after that, it's got interest rates listed there at 5% starting at 2025 up until 2036, and then it goes down to 4%. What does that indicate?
Well, so what's happening is if you'll turn a few pages before and you look at that sources and uses of funds, even though you're paying 5% on a lot of those maturities, you're getting almost $17 million in projects, but you're only borrowing $16 million. Okay. So it's discounts and premiums in the way that the certificates are sold. So there might be an institutional investor. A lot of these investors are property and casualty insurance, USAA, and Allstate, State Farm, and so forth. And there's some others that are, big boys you hear about, municipal bond, Nuveen, Kimco, those people are also buyers. So they're buying yield, so they're willing to pay a big premium, and they're willing to take less money to buy yield. Again, the interest on this to them is exempt from federal.
I was listening to Mr. Martin, and just reflecting back, he's saying we're at a AA right now.
Yes, sir.
And I reflect back many years ago, I think it might have been in 2001 when we took our first bond.
Yep.
And I recall that we were rated at a B. But a year and a half afterwards, we went up to an A.
Yep.
And so the city of Haslett has maintained a good fiscal policy. It's been maintained over the years. Every council builds on itself, one after the other. And so I have to take my hat off to all the administrations. And I did want to say, so this is for 17.1, and what are we buying? Well, let me tell you real quick. I'm just going to, in general, this is going to towards the purchase of 2 new trucks, 104,000, not 104 million, 104,000. That's the least of anything. But street projects, we have approximately $1.6 million in street projects. Water capital projects have approximately 5.7 million in water capital projects. Sewer projects, approximately $6.4 million. Now, I want to make a note about these two, the water and the sewer. Over the past many months, over the last year or so or more, you've heard me speak to, the capital improvements reports that we've been getting and all the projects that were cited that we needed to take action on. Well, those projects were out, these were our 10-year needs. So with this CO, we're addressing those 10-year needs now. And it's just, it's a big day for Haslett for that, to do that. Also, we have approximately $400,000 going towards park improvements, or not park improvements, but community park, and approximately $2.5 million towards fire department expansion. So it's a good day for Haslett. It's a good move. We had to address these capital projects. We have grown, and council, you're addressing them now. Thank you.
Mayor Halsey, I had a question since you're talking about the capital project. Looking at the finance report, it talks about traffic mitigation, signage and markings. Is that including like the speed study, the 156? Because it's the same price as the speed study, traffic mitigation, the 233.5.
This is traffic mitigation is a comprehensive plan all over the, but it does include the markings and signage along 156.
What about the speed study to?
It does include the speed study.
So that it just doesn't. So traffic mitigation incorporates
Yes.
speed study. And then what is the FM 156 traffic study for 30,000? That's a little higher up in the capital project.
And what are you looking at? You're referencing a document.
The finance report that we, in our reports, our financial, our capital
I believe that
products.
speed study is in this.
Then when we got into the discussion about which type of projects could fit and with this bond issue, we kind of rearranged some of the projects. So that's why the big project piece ended up in the bond issue. But the original piece, I think, was what we kind of started in the prior year and carried over. So.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because at the town hall, the speed study was included in that, but if you're saying it goes along with traffic mitigation, so.
Oh, the speed
Sounds good.
study is still going on. It's funded, yeah.
So is that the 233.5?
I'm not looking at it. If you want to bring it over here and show it to me.
Yeah. I circled on the bottom. It's the same. I just didn't see the word speed, so I was just making sure that it was the right thing.
And your question, is it in this bond?
Right, is the speed study the same as the traffic mitigation? Because they're called something separately, but if they mean the same thing, then.
Yes, the speed study itself is probably in, I think you said, in the $30,000 range. It's not $233,000.
Oh, 'cause that's.
It's just part of the traffic mitigation.
Okay, so that's been pulled out, and that's the 30,000 now.
I don't know the exact number, and we are getting a final proposal here in the coming week, probably this week, and I can pass that on our next meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then, our next step is to make a motion on this. Council?
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I move to adopt the ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of City of Haslett combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation series 2022 and approving all matters incident thereto.
Motion is made to adopt the all matters related to the issuance and sale of the City of Haslett, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2022. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey. Mayor Halsey, I'll second.
There is a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor. We did bring some documents, legal documents that will need your signature.
Very
Our
good.
signature later on.
And I think along with this is a bunch of signs we'll be putting out through Haslett that says "Pardon our dust." Item 9B, discuss, consider, and act on adoption of a new master thoroughfare plan. Mr. Swanky.
Mayor Halsey and members of the council, I'm going to let James switch it over there to my screen. If we can do this. All right, we're ready to go. I want to start off by this map that we adopted a couple months ago, and this is the master land use plan. And on this master land use plan, there are thoroughfares that are shown throughout. The master thoroughfare plan reflects those lines, but before we get there, there's some areas that we really wanted to address, and those are shown in the yellow dots that are on the screen. This one on the bottom is John Day Road. We wanted to address that, and you notice there's curves in there on that, and that is to hopefully slow the traffic down. But we're gonna get back to that in just a few seconds. Then also we have Schoolhouse Road where it intersects with 156, and then we also have Main Street where it intersects with Keller Hazlitt Road, and then we have Harmon Road over here where it's a pretty bad intersection where Harmon Road intersects with Westport Parkway, and then over here where Heritage Parkway was not a continuous road down. And then there were also a couple areas down here in the southeast associated with the Blue Mound Road, and then a connection over to 35. And we've developed this, and all these lines reflect what we showed on the master land use plan, except there's been a couple changes. After conversations and public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission, we had Hillwood that expressed some concern up in this area where Transport Drive was shown coming through one of their pieces of property right here and connecting over to Heritage Parkway, and also how Heritage Parkway was more of a long curve down like this way. And then over here on the west side where John Day Road, there was some concern about the pooch out into this tract over here. And so what we've done after conversations with Hillwood and actually some conversations with the property owners down here along John Day Road, we've put a couple traffic circles down here instead of pooching out to slow the traffic down. And then over here, what we've done is eliminated a Transport Drive as it comes over here. But what we've done with this is let me back up a little bit. We have a major water line that pretty much follows this route, and our public works people have a hard time accessing it currently. They have to go through a lot of gates, get a lot of permission when there's problems. So we need a thoroughfare down in this area. One last concern that Hillwood had for this is they would like to, as this property gets going over here in the future, is perhaps collaborate on some kind of TIA to make sure that a 4-lane divided thoroughfare is applicable in that area. Having said that, we've taken the planning and zoning recommendations, and we're forwarding this to you.
Council, I want to give credit where credit is due. If you look on the left-hand side where you see John Day Road extending, we got the two blue dots, and those two blue dots are roundabouts. Well, there were several of us meeting on this, and Mr. Paul Wallach, he's on our P&Z, and he happened to be there. And, and our whole intent is to slow these people down, please. And Mr. Wally, he goes, well, won't you just put a couple traffic circles in there? That'll slow them down. Then you can also keep the road straight. Well, that was rather ingenious. I wish I'd thought of that, but that's why they're there. He thought of that. And it happens to work out with the developer that the development is going on to the west side of that road right now. It lines up perfectly with them. Now, it happens to be in the city of Fort Worth, but that's an adjoining development, and those locations work well for them. So we've addressed that. And then meeting with Hillwood, They had some valuable input, and you have a letter of support in your package expressing that. And when the time comes, of course, that is a majority of that is owned by Hillwood. And when the time comes in development, we will do a traffic impact analysis, TIA, to actually determine the warrant of that road.
And Mayor, there was one final thing that I failed to mention on this drawing, is that there was a connection between Harmon Road out to 35.
Yes.
We've actually deleted that, and that will further reduce traffic that would want to travel Blue Mound Road all the way over to 35.
Council, you have any questions?
I just have a comment. As I watched the P&Z meeting, and I really want to commend y'all for coming back to listening to their concerns and the citizens, and this seems like a good compromise that makes everybody happy. So this looks great to me. Good job.
All right, then. I'm going to turn it over to you, Council, for your discussion. And, well, actually, we have a public hearing on this. Let's go to the public hearing. So it's 8:01 p.m., December 12th, 2022. I open the public hearing for any hearing on this matter. Do we have any speakers? Do you have any speakers that are signed up?
I have nobody signed up.
Do we have any speakers in the audience here who'd like to comment on this? Do we have any speakers online? We have no speakers online, nor do we have any in the chambers, so I'll close the public hearing again at 8:01 p.m. Item 3, discuss, consider, and act. Council?
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I move to approve the adoption of the new master thoroughfare plan.
Motion is made to adopt the new master thoroughfare plan. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Nine C, discuss, consider, and act on the approval of the replat for Blue Mound East lots 6R and 8R1. Mr. Schwenke.
And Mayor Halsey and members of the council, this is a plat right at the apex of Blue Mound Road where it crosses the Maxwell addition. And they're taking 3 lots and turning them into 2 lots. And there's a little bit of right-of-way, if you can go to the plat, that's being shown on the very southeast corner. And it's going to be dedicated. We need a total of 100 feet, and it's just a little bit narrow on that corner. And then as it goes around, we have 100 feet or more the rest of the way. Having said that, the owner of this property is in the audience tonight, and if you have any questions for him later on, but it was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the regular meeting.
Council, let's go to part 2, discussion, consider, and act. Do you have any questions?
Mayor Halsey, I have just one question. So the only part of their land that for their right of dedication is that little lot that's 8.82.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor Halsey, I'd like to make a motion to approve the replat of Blue Mountain Estates lots 6R and 8R1.
Motion is made to approve the replat for Blue Mound Estates lots 6R and 8R1. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Item 9D, discuss, consider, and an act on disapproving the July 7, 2022 Laterra South preliminary plat application due to non-payment of required fees per the city's subdivision ordinance. In your packet, you have the city subdivision ordinance or portions that pertain to this. In essence, when a plat is filed, there are fees due, and these, such as this preliminary plat, there's two fees required. One is the plat fee, and the other is a consultant fee. And happened that the plat fee was filed on July the 7th, or the plat was filed or submitted for on July 7th, and the plat fee was paid at that time. The consultant fee was not paid at that time. Also in your package, it shows city records from iWorks, a automated process we have that where it documents that the Building Services Department notified the applicant that this fee was due. There had been no response. And the ordinance further states if after 45 days there is no action on that, the plat expires. So this is very much an administrative item right here. So this plat has expired, and what we're asking is that you move on, that this very fact is that this application has expired. I will state that this same applicant has last Friday filed a new plat for this same property and has paid all fees. So we need to go ahead and disapprove this one. And the newest one, which was filed Friday, will be what goes forward.
So even though it expires, we have to disapprove it to make it.
Yes, according to the
official.
ordinance.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to disapprove the July 7th, 2022 Laterra South preliminary plat application due to non-payment of required fees for the city's subdivision ordinance.
Motion is made to disapprove the July 7, 2022 Laterra South preliminary plat application due to non-payment of required fees per the city's subdivision ordinance. Is there a second? There is a second. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. 9E, discuss, consider, and act to approve and award contract for the tennis court project. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Haslett Community Park Tennis Court project was publicly bid, and those bids were opened on November 16th. We had 6 bids for the project. They came in from a low of $493,788.15 to a high of $687,676.60. North Rock Construction LLC out of Denton, Texas up here was the lowest bid at the $493,788.15. And after the engineers checked their references and their all the contractors' financial records and stuff to ensure that they could do such a project, they turned everything in, and so the engineers feel good that these guys could build this project according to the plans and specs. So then on the 16th or the 30th of November, the Park and Recreation Board held a special meeting just for this, to talk about this thing. And they unanimously approved and recommend that this contract for $493,788.15 be awarded to North Rock Construction Company LLC. And the amount, though, does exceed the original estimated budget. The original estimated budget was $430,000. So we're $63,788.15 over. At the same meeting, the Park Board recommended that the additional funds needed for that come from their Fund 15, which is their Park Improvement Fund, and that they also recommended that the 5% request from engineering and the Public Works Department for contingencies in the field also be approved for a total amount exceeding the contract of $88,477. We're asking tonight, the Park Board is that y'all approve their recommendations and we award this contract.
And repeat the total amount again.
The total amount of the project inclusive of the deal would be $493,788.15 plus the $63,788.15 from the Park Board's budget plus $24,689.40, which is the 5% contingency requested by Public Works and Engineering.
Who's got a calculator? Do we have that total?
500 and
Let's add those three numbers up. That way the council has one number.
no, the whole total is no. Total.
Is it the 493 plus the 88,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 582, 265.
Yep.
15.
582,000.
I did like that they have done a mixed-use tennis court, pickleball court at North Lake in Denton, so that was good
Yes.
that they've done that.
Very nice facility. I know personally. I've actually been there.
I have a question.
Yes.
When looking at the items in the budget for this, are there, on the surface treatment, I noticed that on the one that they chose, the contract they chose, it's for $21,000 for the surface treatment. So that's less than half of what the other companies were bidding for
Mhm.
that. Is there a reason? And are we gonna have, I mean, are they doing less? Are we gonna have to,
They're
redo it after
providing,
so-
no, they're basically all the others, from what we understood, checking with them, was they were using a separate sub. They are using a separate sub, but they are providing the labor portion within their own company, rather than bringing their own workforce to the job. These guys will just have that supplier will come and do the pumping onto the job, and their guys will make sure it's taken care of.
I saw that too, Mayor Pro Tem Broyles, but also you looked at the third person, they only wanted 15,000 for it too, so.
I'd like to make a motion. I would like to approve and award the contract for the tennis court project for the amount of $582,265.15 to
North
North
Rock.
Rock Construction,
Repeat that total number again. 582.
$265.15.
Motion is made to approve the contract for the tennis court project construction to North Rock for the amount of $582,265.15. Is there a second?
Mayor Holsey, I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor Holsey, do we need to identify where the funds came out of, or did the P&Z or the parks already do that?
You can, yes, as a matter of fact, let's do identify that. We have that on the screen. So additional funding requested is $88,477.
So I will clarify or amend my motion that the budget amount of 430 plus the 88,477 to come from Fund 15.
Okay, is there a second to that amendment?
Mayor Holsey, I'll second.
There is a second. All right, very good. My only question is, does tennis rackets come with that?
No, sir, they do not.
All right then. Okay, council, any further discussion on that? All right, all in favor? It's unanimous. Ms. Long, congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Now, we might have thought about just putting a tennis net across that new parking lot over there, and that's only $179,000. Item 9F, discuss and consider an act on purchasing medical equipment using the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, known as CLFRF. Chief Mays.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll keep this simple and answer any questions. As you know, we have this CLFRF money available to use till December 31st of 2024. So I am requesting that we replace our aging AEDs for a price of $20,600.50, and to also purchase a mechanical compression device for $22,701.01. So again, that total is for $43,301.51 if we purchase before January price increases. So I'm just requesting that we, not knowing if ship and handling gets involved sometimes, so that we request to approve up to $45,000 to purchase these items.
Council, we have any questions for Chief Mays?
Mayor
Sure.
Halsey,
Yes.
I move to approve up to $45,000 to purchase medical equipment using the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund.
Motion is made to approve $45,000 from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund for the purchase of a medical equipment. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Item 9G, discuss, consider, and act on purchasing a new vehicle for code enforcement using contingency funds. Mr. Thetford.
Thank you, Mayor Council. It'll be a little bit cheaper than the chief there. So this is a need for us, for our department in building services and code enforcement. As you all know, we have a new code enforcement officer, and right now she is currently using the city admin shared vehicle. After everything she does, she picks up signage on the road, materials, debris, whatever. So I think we need to buy her a truck. So I'm asking to approve, or for you to look at and approve allocating general funds or contingency funds in the amount of get my spreadsheet out right here. Amount of $38,969. There's a spreadsheet there that has some of the ancillary items that will be going on the vehicle. So it's the vehicle itself, the graphics for the truck, so the signage and everything, the lighting package, and a bed cover. And I will answer any questions you may have.
And I have a total here, contingency incorporating that is $39,009 is your actual request.
Yes, that, the quest that you're seeing, it has the correct quote price from the truck. It's different.
When we make the motion, can we say not to exceed 40,000, just as a.
That's a good
is that
idea.
okay? Are you okay?
That's a
with that?
good idea.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to purchase a new vehicle for code enforcement using contingency funds up to $40,000.
Motion is made to approve purchase of a new vehicle for code enforcement utilizing contingency funds not to exceed $40,000. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I'll second. I second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Mayor
Thank
Council,
you, council.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. All right, item 10, executive session. City Council reserves the right to adjourn into the executive session during the course of the meeting to seek legal advice from his attorney regarding any item on the posted agenda as authorized by Section 551072. Additionally, pursuant to the provision of Chapter 551, the council may adjourn into executive session in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551072 and Section 551074. At this time, it is 8:20 p.m. I will recess the open session, and in 15 minutes, we would reconvene in the conference room for executive session, and that will give us time to do some signatures for Hilltop. And meetings recessed at 8:21 p.m. All right, the time is 9:33 p.m. We are resuming the open session. All council members are in the chambers. They are present. Let's go to item number 11. Consider and take any action resulting from the executive session.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I make a motion to remove Kathleen Golden from place 1 from EDC type B and replace with alternate 1 Kathy Brandon, place 1, and also remove John M. Thomas and replace with alternative 2 Patricia Hilborn, place 5.
Motion is made.
Sorry,
to-
effective immediately.
Effective immediately. Okay, the motion is made to remove Kathleen Golden from place 1 of EDC type B and Mr. John Thomas and to appoint Kathy Brandon to place 1 and to remove Mr. John Thomas from place 5 and appoint Patricia Hilborn to place 5, effective immediate. Is there a second?
Yes, Mayor, I'll second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4, all opposed? 1 opposed. Motion passes. Item 12, future agenda items. Council, do you have any future agenda items?
Doug, mention what you said about adding to the report. I thought, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, two things. In the monthly reports from the different departments, month or two ago, we talked about adding a listing of the meetings and the attendees to keep track of who's attending all the different committee meetings.
Oh, board, you want board attendance
Board attendee
reports.
meeting. Yes.
Ms. Montgomery put down board attendance reports.
And also, can we get a map that shows all the EDC type A, type B, and city-owned properties within the city limit?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Schwanke.
Yes, sir. I'm over here shaking my head, yes.
All right, so I have 2 items, and they will be reports. Do you desire them? Well, you'll have one meeting coming up in January, and we'll have other reports, and we'll supply these at that time also.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, very good. Okay, item 13, adjourn. May I have a motion?
Mayor Halsey, I move to adjourn.
Motion's made to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
There is a second. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Have a good evening. Council, I will notify the EDC members of the decision.